It appears we have found two new cases of election fraud. And shockingly, it's because of Republicans. No, Republicans didn't find the election fraud; they perpetrated it. So now this is coming out of Ohio. ABC6 reported that Marion County Republican officials John Matthews and Robert Landon broke the law by distributing fake campaign handouts designed to look like sample ballots. Turns out you can't actually do that. A little bit illegal. These sample ballots reportedly look like real voting ballots, but with boxes that highlighted all the Republican candidates. That's subtle, very subtle, but also very illegal. Can't do that. Ohio law actually bans political parties and candidates from handing out sample ballots that look like this. They're actually supposed to be printed, according to Ohio law, on colored paper to distinguish them from real ballots. However, the ones that Landon had distributed were actually on white paper. So, look, if you want to consider this like, oh, this is a small thing, whatever, you shouldn't actually get in trouble for using the wrong kind of paper. Now, if you're making that argument, but are also screaming about voter ID and how we can't have the possibility, even the remote possibility of illegals voting in our elections, a little bit of a hypocrite. Just saying. Little hypocrisy there. But anyway, so now at the bottom of the fake ballot, it also did mention that it was paid by the Marion County Republican Party. So, okay, at least it had that little disclaimer in there, but then again, who reads the fine print? Now, according to Marion Law Director Mark Russell, Landon had admitted to passing out sample ballots, while Matthews had admitted to producing them. So they were working together to do these fake sample ballots, hand them out during election day for, I don't know, some unknown reason. Now, the pair are being charged with a misdemeanor because this is not actually a felony, which is a little bit of a lucky break. Under Ohio law, however, a resident could face up to 6 months in jail and be forced to pay up to a $1,000 fine for this offense. So even if, look, it all depends on, what their sentence will be, but they've already been charged for this. And so we'll see what happens. Could be a fine. Now, I want to compare this to a different case, right? And this is the case of Crystal Mason. Now, Crystal Mason, if you don't recall, she's a Texas woman that was given 5 years in prison for casting an illegal ballot. Okay. Now, what happened to her? She's a convicted felon, and she was actually on her way to release. Now, she was under supervised release when she cast a ballot in 2016. Turns out you can't actually do that. That's considered to be voter fraud. So now she's facing 5 years in prison, right? Now, she says, look, I didn't know that I wasn't actually able to vote. I didn't know that I lost my voting rights. Now that I'm out of prison, even though I'm on supervised release, okay, I had no idea. These guys, they were literally handing out fake ballots. There's a difference. 5 years for one, 1 year or $1,000 fine for the other. Interesting. Okay, so now to make it worse for them, this is not the first time they've gotten in trouble. In 2017, Matthews had pled guilty to theft in office for doing political work while he was supposed to be doing claims support work for the Ohio Industrial Commission, according to the Columbus Dispatch. Now, that actually is a felony to the fourth degree. The Ohio Inspector General's office actually began investigating Matthews in 2016 after receiving an anonymous tip that he spent his workday, quote, sleeping and fundraising for Governor John Kasich's presidential campaign when he should have been actually working as Director of Claims Support for the State Industrial Commission. Sleeping and fundraising. Well, sounds fun. He was given 1 year of probation in order to pay a restitution of about $4,062 by Franklin County Common Pleas Court Judge Guy Reese. James Mankin, chief legal counsel for the Inspector General, said at the time, that a conviction for theft in office precludes Mr. Matthews from holding in a position of trust in government. So he couldn't run for government, but that didn't stop him from getting involved in literally printing off fake ballots that Mr. Landon had tried to hand out in order to help him get elected, by the way. Now, Matthews ended up having to vacate his seat on the Ohio Republican Party's governing body, but again, that didn't stop him from creating these phony ballots. So you want to talk about fraud? Well, who's doing the fraud? Unfortunately, most of the time, it's mainly Republicans. Now, a couple more examples here. You have Terry Lynn Rote, who's an Iowa woman who tried to vote twice for President Trump, and Russ Casey, a Texas justice of the peace, who admitted to turning in fake signatures in order to get on the primary ballot. And now you have these guys, among many others. Turns out, most of the time where there is election fraud or voter fraud, you usually find a Republican at the center of it. Because, look, there's a lot of them that don't actually believe in democracy. They lie to the voters, they rig the system, and sometimes outright cheat in order to gain or retain their own power. The motto of these people, and I'm not saying all conservatives believe in that, or even all Republican officials. There seems to be a lot of them that go by the motto, if you can't beat them, cheat them. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.